Mi gente, you already know who it is. It's the radioactive pop with Danny Limelight, United Wrestling Network World Heavyweight Champion. And make sure you tune into the Alliance blog every week. You heard it here first. Straight from Pop.
They want NWA? Let's give them NWA.
Who are those guys?
And then there's the other guys.
We're the other guys. We're the guys nobody ever bets on.
The following program is intended for mature audiences.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the show.
It's time for the Other Alliance Guys podcast with your hosts, Tim, Dave, and Jeremy.
What it is, what it was, what it could be. Look at Dave. He's totally frozen. He's just like, oh, he's back. Hey, Dave. It's time for the Other Alliance Guys, a presentation of alliance-wrestling.com, your number one source for news and information around the National Wrestling Alliance, the United Wrestling Network, and various independents such as MLW, the cap being sported by Mr. Scooby right now, around the world. My name is Tim. This is Jeremy and Dave. How are you? How you guys?
Doing good.
Right over there.
Good.
Good. So we're just chatting with the Reluchador there for a second. She's looking for her laptop. Hey, honey. Where I'm pointing. On top of the gray thing right there. Sorry, guys. Anyway. What are we doing? What are we doing today? We got people in the chat. We got who's here? We got Willie making Tyrus jokes of the day, and this is his new ring entrance. Caution, wide load is coming. Willie, we're going down to 75, which is kind of the focus of tonight, to see Tyrus lose the World's Heavyweight Championship, ostensibly to EC3 at this point. We hope we're not spoiling power from last night for anybody, but you're now former national heavyweight champion who relinquished the title, and we'll talk about that. Media Mike is here. We that volume just I don't know, the first music that I put on, I'm like, it's a new year for us. We'll try we'll try something new. And it was like music to want to strangle myself by. So I went back.
Wow.
I just went back to the he's awake now. Hey, Lou Thez is here. He was here. Bye, Lou. It was good to see you, buddy. Thanks for dropping by. We have Steve G in the house saying hello to Marlon Mueller, who Dave Scooby tells me is half pint online. So welcome. Thanks, everybody, for showing up.
Yes.
He was not delighted. Yeah, sorry, just reading the comments in the chat. It's a rough stuff to season 2, episode 1. We're not doing that.
We're professionals.
That's right. We're just episode 53. But let's talk about something that happened just the other day. A little bit of a sad note, but one out of respect. We lost Mike Mantor Halleck yesterday, 55 years old. Past the Mantor gimmick, which of course was one of the the more hilarious gimmicks in WWE history. But look, the guy had a decent career in the mid-90s, taking on some superstars. He faced Jeff Jarrett for the Intercontinental title at one point. He worked as Tank. He worked as a character in the CWA called Terminator Mastino. And more importantly, he's survived by a wife and a daughter. So our condolences to his friend and family. As much as we all, I think, universally like to laugh at the Mantor gimmick, I think any one of us would have traded places in a second just to get in a WWE ring and moo at somebody. So all the best in your travels, Mike, and I hope you're headed where the good people go. Let's see, just quick in the chat. Yeah, Mike or Marlon says, I'm still confused how EC3 can just relinquish the national title. It's not the first time it's happened, Jeremy, in the Lightning One era. Chris Adonis just kind of dropped it one day to go into a battle royal to try to be there to protect, I think, Nick Aldis's title at the time, and then won it back again as if it were nothing. The poor beleaguered national title, though. Were you cool with this or what?
No, not at all. This feels kind of like Crash Wrestling a little bit, a little Russo-y.
Yep.
It doesn't make any sense at all, but it's got us talking about it. It was a stupid move. I would have held on to it and made the challenge. What says he has to drop the title in order to go after a title? Is there, as far as I'm aware, there's nothing that states that, right? That's just a TV title. And the TV title is just, you got to win 7. You don't even have to drop it then, right?
I do think you have to relinquish it to get that shot.
Okay. But the national, I don't think that's been done, has it? Maybe we're getting a precedent set now. This is Billy's perspective, like I told you yesterday in the Discord. This is the history, legacy, and tradition of wrestling that we grew up with just through Billy's perspective. He's told us this numerous times, guys.
Right. Made me laugh then, and it made me laugh now. The way he did it, Dave, I was freaking out in our Discord as well too. But I do get the perspective of as a character that he is shedding, so that he can go into his final form of being the guy who's focused just on the 10 pounds of gold, right?
And I like that DBZ reference there.
Yeah. And then that was a great show. Anyway.
Oh, we need to talk later then.
We do. But if you were going to do it, and they shouldn't have done it, in my opinion, couldn't you at least fold it up and say, I need to focus, take the mic, I need to focus on becoming, the world's heavyweight champion. I respectfully give up this title, whatever, to just drop it. I thought was brutally just like, this is no longer something I need. I get rid of this. And, at the very least, they could have put, it devalues the title to do it. It devalues it further to do it the way it was done, in my opinion. And why wouldn't you just put Thrill Billy over and make him the national champ if you were booking this thing? I don't know. What do you think, Dave?
Well, I mean, it did Thrill Billy no favors. And if you watched carefully, Billy was sitting by the entryway. So Billy was out there watching. He could have easily taken the belt out, folded it up, walked over, and handed it to Billy. He never said he was giving up the title. It was Joe who was saying he was giving up the title. So they just need to tighten things up and do a little better on the storytelling.
Yeah, continuity, like we were talking about before the show, is key here. Doty's here. Our good friend Doty. It's the opportunity for Thrill Billy to win the vacant title. He could have won it last night, straight up, and beaten the Overman, because he's over, man. You're muted, Jer.
It could have even been a hinky win where EC3 lost it because Thrill Billy put his fucking feet up on the ropes or something, and he's going heel.
Yeah, and you could have.
It kind of got the vibe that I got off of him in the promo that we got from him.
Right.
The Southern Six.
Well, let's talk about that. Let's just keep going with. I hate to crap on the first power after, for basically a new season, as they used to call them. But the Southern Six promo was out of whack. It was cool to see Alex Taylor, Big AT, as he is now, and Kerry Morton, of course, and the Thrill Billy. But you were saying, Jeremy, before the show, like, it's all out of order.
Yeah.
It's like they were talking about stuff, guys, that hadn't happened yet. And it just kind of makes me smack my head like Dave, I'm trying to remember now. The continuity for this thing was like the promo was before the match, right?
Yep. Yes, it was, and it seemed out of order. That they need work on setting a storyline and figure the less you have to make edits. So I don't understand. They need somebody just to basically work on continuity, or they need to watch their own programming and make sure that it makes sense.
You're breaking up pretty bad. I got you at the end there for the last 5 seconds or so, but you might want to check the connection.
Okay.
Doty's saying there's no way EC3 lost. Why should he lose to Thrill Billy if he wants to challenge for the world champion? Well, yeah, I mean, there are ways to. It would have been more interesting to me if he went to face Tyrus as the national champion.
Yeah.
We got 9 belts, Jeremy. Like, why can't we just not defend one of them at the pay-per-view? Winner takes both. I don't know.
Why not? We've already had a belt collector in with Matt Cardona. Why not have an actual belt collector in EC3? That's
right. I mean,
I for one, it's totally believable. I mean, look at the guy. He's probably in some of the best shape he's been in since his prime TNA run,
Right.
Impact run.
She agrees.
Yep. Okay.
Thank you, Mike. I like the haircut too. I'm doing all right. See what else is in the chat here. This one, Scooby critics Billy. Billy hacks his PC. The timing is always suspect. Yeah, Jack Stain was Baby agrees. Jack Stain wasn't a national North American champion. I mean, there were times throughout NWA history when the national title meant you were going to face the world champion. You know, Steve Corino, just as a random example, went and fought, I think, Robbie Royce for the national title, and then that was his stepping stone into the world championship. So I don't know, whatever. It wasn't the last flub on this particular episode of Power either. And I know that Jay and DK and Jaden will probably go over all the matches tomorrow night, but the Ricky Morton match really had problems with the quality of. God, I continue to hate to say this, but the quality of Ricky's wrestling.
Yeah.
You know, he clearly loves this business, and part of me wants to say he can do whatever he wants because he's such a legend here and the whole bit. But boy, I just don't need him on NWA TV anymore in the ring. You know, and how did you feel for Coalax Simona and dealing with that destroyer and everything else? Sorry, G's like, do we have to talk about it tomorrow night? Hey, DK.
I completely understand, DK. I like I said whenever we were talking backstage, I saw that kid's life flash before his eyes, and I'm sure he did whenever Ricky landed that Canadian destroyer. Don't ever do that again. That is a move that was more on Koa than Ricky to execute.
Of course.
But I don't know if he's just not that well versed in taking it, which I doubt, because from everything that I've read from everybody else, he can go. That's seen him in other indies and stuff. He can go. But I don't know if he was just not comfortable taking it with Ricky, but didn't know how to say, I don't want to do that spot with you. No offense, but you know, that's got to be an agreed upon move. I would believe, and just from a fanboy perspective, I could see having butterflies telling Ricky Morton, no, I don't want to do that spot with you in a match. You're wrestling against one of the greats. You know.
Yeah, and I think that's Ricky's finisher now. He's used that for a while. So a couple of the comments, Ricky's opponent, you can tell, I don't know if it was nerves, but he's almost happy-footed in the ring a few times.
Yeah.
The question, James H. Jackson Jr., our friend, the question is why Ricky taking TV spots that we need storyline-wise for other wrestlers in the road to 75. 6 weeks. It's what we've got to, what the NWA has to put together.
And let me just say real quick that if you're not following James H. Jackson online, do that. That man has his ear to the rail and picks up on all the smallest little tidbits of news and stuff, just like Lamb does as well. Follow James H. Jackson Jr. if you're not online. Love that dude's mind.
Yeah, put your handle up there, James. up in the chat so everyone can get it. Sam Retro's here. Alliance, what's happening? Road to NWA 75. Yeah, baby. Let's and you know what? We'll talk about. I want Dave to talk about the MLW show when he's back. He's great.
Yep.
Oh, you're downstairs now, so now you got the full internet load.
Hopefully.
Yeah. Oh, you're perfect now. You're clear, and there you go. Dave, you went to an MLW show on the weekend, and from what the pictures and the comments you were putting up, man, I wished I was there.
It's one of these things. I mean, I've said it time and time again. If you go to an MLW show and don't enjoy something, it's basically a buffet of wrestling. They have hardcore wrestling. They have technical wrestling. They have luchadors. They have Microman. He's less than 3 foot. You may not like everything, but you'll
literally.
He's got fire hydrant. Yeah.
and it's just it's insane. And I mean, you can go online, and I believe MLW has a YouTube channel, and they did crown a new champion. So Hammerstone is no longer their champion. Alex Kane is.
Yeah. He had like a year and a half reign, didn't he?
Yeah. And it's one of these things that they have several throwback teams that do great tag team action. They have the Samoan SWAT team. Jacob Fatu is there. There's enough interest if you like just plain wrestling. But I mean, they have all these different styles, and I mean, all I can really say is it's a buffet, a little bit of everything for everybody.
Right.
And I mean, give it a try. If you like it, that's cool. If not, you can move on. But it's one of these things that it keeps my interest at least 75% of the time. And if you're doing that, you're doing something right.
Yeah.
Well, Mike, Media Mike says, yeah, not happy about the MLW title change. However, Kane does deserve it. He's busted his ass.
Yeah. Yeah.
He started in Jersey. So there you go. Yeah, I'm like Jay sometimes says, maybe we ought to be covering MLW on one of these days, because it seems like such a great product. Steve G tells us it airs on YouTube every Thursday.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know, maybe that's something that the other Alliance guys, should they arrive someday, takes on, or maybe we start looking at it at some point. But we still got the NWA headed into the 75th anniversary. By the way, the actual anniversary of the NWA 75 years is 6 days from now, the same day that Jay hosts a pre-party. So that's nice symmetry. 75 next Tuesday. When Sam Munchnick and a bunch of promoters got together, and I think it was Iowa at a hotel to figure out how this was going to work. So that's great. I'm just going to go back to some of the comments from before. Mike says Ricky Morton's starting to look like the Crypt Keeper. I mean, he's got a look and he's maintaining it. That's
Yeah.
Let's say that. Let's see here. Ricky Morton and Rolando Willie says need to stay away from the ring. Yeah, you had Rolando in a match on Power, and I know DKM is so excited about that, and he'll be talking about that with Jay and Jaden tomorrow night. Anything else I'm missing here? Just real quick. No. So we would have talked about what happened at HP Cares for Cooper in that particular event. But from what I can determine in my my search, which I wouldn't say was exhaustive, but I probably spent 15 minutes yesterday looking for the results. It's never released, including by the NWA. And I realized it was a charity show, and I would imagine none of the titles changed hands, but wouldn't it be nice to know if Kamille, pinned Natalia Markova, or there was a DQ, or I don't know. Jeremy. It seems like a missed opportunity to not get those results out there.
Yeah. At the very least, put the results out on Twitter, on your various social medias. This you've advertised it all over the place on your socials. So why not follow that up by putting the results online after it's done? Like James says, I spent an hour looking for said results and found nothing. Why advertise it if you're not going to put at least put the results up?
Yeah.
Continuity.
Yeah. I can't believe I said Sam Munchnick. Anyway. Yes, Pinky George. Thank you very much. You are correct, sir. And Jay is, of course, here, and it's at James H. Jackson Jr. on Twitter.
Oh, I put that in there.
Oh, did you? Well, that's you. I thought it was me.
The boss might be in a meeting trying to get us sponsored.
Ooh.
Not happening.
It's W. Willie wants to know how come Fox News doesn't promote or talk about NWA Pro Wrestling to their audience. No one's paying them to do that. That's why.
They're allowing Tyrus to come out with the belt, so I think that's the give there. We'll let you come out with it, but don't say anything about the wrestling.
Yeah. It seems to have gone that way from what I hear. Well, we're 30 minutes in, so let's dive right into it. We're going to talk about some title matches, not all the matches, but title matches that we anticipate going into 75 in 6 weeks, and potential opponents for some of those belts, and maybe who we'd like to see instead of who appears to be next up right now. Jeremy's going to talk about the UWN and a couple of the matches from United Wrestling Network this week as things continue to heat up around, it's on the set of Championship Wrestling is where everyone seems to be converging right now.
Yeah.
And Dave's going to do some fantasy booking around the I don't know if it's the worst kept secret in the NWA, but everyone seems to be talking about a potential streaming or TV deal, and Dave's got some thoughts on that. Mike's going to talk to Jay about having a bi-weekly chat with Alliance people on Discord on audio and video. That's great.
I like that.
Sam Retro says, I was looking forward to EC3 versus Clearwater. Shake my head. Yeah. Well, not anymore, my friend. HP Cares for Cooper is an old live show. As old school as it gets, you won't know what to happen unless you're there yourself. Agreed, and no problem with that. But tell me that. Tell me it's like, hey, you had to be there. Well, what a night for the rest of us. Make sure you're there next time. But that should be told to us up front. That's my opinion. NWA 75 to really kind of get into the meat of things. Later next month, 6 weeks, the diamond anniversary of the National Wrestling Alliance, 75 years. It's got to be a big show, guys. TV tapings, as we know, just wrapped up, and the first episode of Power has already been cut and talked about a few minutes ago. And when we first kind of set this up, like, wow, who could be will it be Chris Adonis or will it be EC3? Well, we've already got 3 matches that appear to be set, and I kind of wonder if we want it that way right now. But let's stop from the top down. We apparently have Tyrus versus EC3, Dave.
Yep.
And that makes sense from what has happened in the weeks leading up to, the break. Mm-hmm. Is that the match we want, or because we've also heard some talk about Chris Adonis, and we've heard some talk from Kamille and Thom Latimer. What do you think's going to shape up here? What would you want to see?
I like where the story's going, but I would have liked it better if Adonis would have said, hey, I had my chance. I've had my one chance, but I partnered with him, and part of our deal was I get a second chance at the belt. So I would have liked to have seen EC3 and Adonis more or less battle it out. And God forbid it would be a three-way. I don't want that, but there's more to the story. And you can either wrap up the Adonis story if he loses, or if he wins and then doesn't end up taking the title away from Tyrus, that EC3 does a run in during their match and either injures Tyrus even more, because that's the story as to why he wasn't in Chicago, because he's so who knows. I mean, the only thing that is really missing in this story is Black G's is not there to talk for EC3. Not that EC3 needs to be talked for, but it was the breaking up of the church's money and Idol Enterprises and all that, that more or less he's picking sides between Tyrus and EC3.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But there's so much that they could do. And I mean, I'm hoping that somebody looks at what they do and goes, okay, hey, we missed this. We could do this. Pay attention. There's so many things that, I mean, it's just little things. Wrap up storyline. So if Adonis, if you don't want him in the storyline anymore, make EC3 defeat him in a battle for the belt.
Yep.
Right.
It's a good storyline. It wraps it up, puts a button on it. Okay, Adonis, you're to the side. EC3, you can now step up. It's just, it's little things that make the story work. And right now it's not working for me.
I would agree. And, you know, just while I'm, as a brief aside, best wishes to Jeezy. He is missed on TV and he's battling some health issues right now. He was on the Tyrus and the Wise Men podcast, just this past one that came up with Tim Storm actually was on it too. Mm-hmm. Or as Tyrus calls it, Tyrus and the Wise Men and Aaron Stevens. But it was good to hear his voice out there. I hope he's doing well. But Jeremy, like you remember when Matt Cardona gave up the belt and suddenly people started popping out of the woodwork at Always Ready. And, you know, it was the Hatchet, Sam
Shaw.
Dexter Loomis. Thank you, Shaw. Sam Shaw and Thom Latimer, and and you never believed in me, Billy, and okay, you're in this too, and it was suddenly a four-way, and I don't want that either. Like I want one guy, like Dave said, to go to this. But what about you? Were you hoping for someone else other than EC3? Or are you looking forward to the essential character taking on the man mountain that is Tyrus?
At this point in the game, this late into the fourth quarter, with Tyrus holding the ball as long as he has, which hasn't been long, but felt like an eternity now. I would almost say I would rather have Gags.
Oh,
going. I don't care who it is at this point, as long as he drops it.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
That's where I'm at with this. The experiment has gone on way too long. You suffer too many casualties in this, and it's time to pull the plug.
I agree that it's time. I mean, if it comes down to one of those crazy three ways, then I hope that it's Adonis, and if they go four again, Latimer. I mean, back in the hunt, but it is time. I think we all agree now, whether we agreed that the experiment was worth the risk, like I always maintain. I think we all agree that it hasn't worked.
Yeah.
And by all the metrics we can see,
Yep.
and we'd like a wrestler as our world champion. He's not at this TV tapings too, which is he's got a bum wheel from what I understand. So maybe he legit hurt himself at that last event, 312, I want to say.
Yeah.
I heard he slipped on a sausage packet.
Oh, the hot fire. I'm just going to go back to the chat here. James says, I just hope the TV deal isn't that we're going back to fight.
Remember how big news that was whenever Billy announced it, though? That was the greatest thing ever.
Yeah. What if it's like the NWA is playing live on Gutfeld and we're going to have wrestling in between? Wow. Anyway, Clearwater, Steve G says, is most likely is UWN now. I think he still splits his time. Hopefully he's at this taping. I haven't heard that he isn't.
Right.
Maybe ask Pollo about the show. I didn't see Pollo in the chat. Did I miss Pollo earlier? Pollo shows up from time to time here, and we'll ask them when they are here. If or when NWA Pro Wrestling TV deal, Willie says, please don't let Tyrus have the 10 pounds of gold. They've lost Dave. Yeah, he's not in Chicago because he's at Popeye's Chicken for the 2-for-1 value family dinner pack.
Can't say as a blame him. It does sound good.
It does sound pretty good right now. Sam says, I'd rather see EC3 versus Adonis. Oop. I'm adding you in, Dave, if you need to. I think you can take yourself in and out, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So, yeah, Sam would rather see EC3 versus Adonis. We may have to wait until after 75 should he take that title and take on, I would think Latimer would be storyline-wise next up, but I would love to see Chris Adonis holding the 10 pounds of gold. Yeah, eternity is exactly how long it feels with Tyrus as champion, Jeremy. I think that's because of the TV title reign that preceded it as well for well over a year.
Yeah.
Yes, Marlon, no, Tyrus is not at the TV tapings. As mentioned, he was injured. He's not going to be there. I don't know what that means for TV. I don't know if they're going to film something on the side. But
I would.
I hope the television just focuses on trying to get EC3 as the overman more than he actually is over. I feel like that's a terrible name, by the way, but I like the cerebral, to use the Triple H term, the cerebral assassin, right? I like the thinking man's wrestler, but he's a little too out there, I think, for a lot of people. So maybe just getting him over is where we ought to spend the TV time. Dodie says EC3 dropped the national title out of the blue is not without reason. That's a bold statement that he will be booked to win the bigger one. At least that's what we hope for. 100%.
I do. That is a pretty bold statement to just drop it and walk away from gold that you already have. You're basically, I'm winning that. I'm taking that title, which is more important than this one.
Dave, do you think he should have dropped it? He's shedding his skin. He's moving on. It's nothing to him. Or should they have done something else with the belt? And should they have threw Billy over? Should they have folded it up and said, Billy, like I know you said he was standing there at the back, take this. Did they do it the right way or no?
I think it could have been done a little better, but I'm going to do a wait and see. I'm not sure what's going to happen, but like you said, there's 6 weeks that they have to build this story up and build 75. And I'm keeping my fingers crossed that they put on a good show and that they actually do something with Tyrus and not just have him be a silent champion.
Yeah.
Right. DK had said this isn't an experiment, and Billy put it on one of his boys, and he shouldn't have, but he did.
Oh yeah.
It's funny because if you look at the wise men and who's in that podcast, that's like your world champion, your former world champion, and Trevor Murdoch, a guy who challenged for it, and Aaron Stevens, EC3, who might be next up. So, I mean, it's all the boys really, but your point's taken. Download gave up the national title to Facebook Flair for the world belt. I feel like I should catch that, but I'm not. Let's see here. Adonis Carlton says, welcome. Should be going for the title and winning it. Willie agrees. Doty won't hold his breath too much, but NWA got network streaming deal is a surprise of its own, regardless of what's the network. Yeah, we'll talk about that. The best angle, Willie says, would have been Adonis asking him why he left in the ring at Crockett Cup, and from there you got your World Heavyweight Championship match. Yeah, this is why I think that we might end up with a three-way, because Adonis got screwed at the Crockett Cup by, ostensibly by Tyrus, right? No partner in the corner. So what about women's world title? You got Kamille, who's, well, it feels like she's faced Natalia Markova 11 billion times. I think it's only 2. But, boy, it feels done. Jeremy, like, they've done this before, right? Like, we've seen this before. And if you're anchoring the show, with, well, probably the best match of one of the nights will be Kamille versus whoever. You want to see this one again? Does this have any interest for you?
No interest in the sense that I don't have any interest in seeing Natalia Markova go for the title. She can wrestle, but I don't care to see her as our women's world champion. But on the flip side of that, the two of these women, we've seen them put on hell of matches in the last few that we've seen them face off with each other. So we know that they can put on a good match together with each other. Kamille doesn't have any other viable contenders at this point that have been built up. So this is the most natural and logical direction to go again. But
Yeah,
more women definitely need to be built up to go after that title. We can't just keep seeing these matches over and over again and again and again.
Mm-hmm.
I think Dave feels the same. Is there someone you'd prefer to see?
Well, they've sort of painted themselves into a corner in that she's defeated everybody on the roster. Now, La Rosa Negra was injured. I'm not sure when or if she's coming back. But maybe, I mean, granted, it is 75. They need to do something. But, I mean, step outside. If at any time they need to step outside and grab somebody that's not currently in the NWA, this is the time.
Yeah, right now.
Memphis does it every week. Memphis has somebody coming in every single week. UWN was doing it with Clearwater and bringing in an opponent for him to take on every week, every other week, roughly. So spend a little bit of extra money, just bring somebody in per taping for her to build up a program with, and then the next pay-per-view, they have their title shot. They take it or don't, depending on, and then you, at your next set of tapings, you got your next person to come in and cycle through for Kamille to just run over or drop to,
Yeah.
But somebody we can't just keep seeing these over and over if you're not going to build up other talents, other female talents on the roster. Bring in other people.
Yeah. Yeah. They have a very strong women's roster, but it's small.
Yeah.
That they need to cycle in a couple, whether they be enhancement talent or just some good workers, a couple tag teams. So there's more than 2 tag teams. They need to bring in somebody to either go after Kamille or bring Jazz out and go, I never lost the title. I had to give it up. I'm bringing somebody in to reclaim my glory. Bring in a masked wrestler. Throw them with blunt force trauma. Have a masked female wrestler.
Right.
We don't know who it is. We just need to have somebody that can put on a good show and give you in the back of your head a sensation of, well, maybe Kamille could lose.
Yeah.
Yep.
You know,
I agree. Like Steve said, Tessa versus Kamille for 75, and I don't know if that's possible. That's the one that makes the most money drawing sense for me, or at least eyes on the product. Marlon feels the same way. Willie says Jordan Grace, like that. Maybe that's a good fit as well. She's doing bodybuilding now, but Dodie points out, I'd love to see Natalya win the women's title, but if they want to do it, they should do it now, because Natalya would lose. I think she means 3 times if she loses again, and that includes the Dark Charity show. And if Natalya still lost, no one wants Kamille versus Natalya until Natalya starts again from the bottom to prove she deserves another chance, or grabs herself the women's television title.
Yep.
yeah.
She certainly has put in a lot of good work out there. Cassandra Golden isn't a name, though, not outside of unfortunately. Let me see here. It would be cool, Sam says, cool to see Tessa versus Kamille in Crockett Country.
Yeah.
And Jordan Grace as a female masked wrestler, or I would love, Carlton says, I would have Tessa interfere in a title match against Natalya, put the belt on her, and then have a feud with Kamille versus Tessa. That's money. Yeah.
Well, Tim, I believe they're doing something in Boca Raton in about a week, or under a week. I think this coming Friday or Saturday. It's the 19th, so I mean, it's one of these things of they still have a chance to have a surprise for us.
Yep.
Yeah.
And this could, hopefully they're either taping or they'll give us some results, but hopefully it has some meaning as to what's going to happen at 75.
Right. Carlton says, bring the Hex back. Okay. There's no tag teams either. We'll talk about that in a second.
Yeah.
Boca Raton versus the World is not being televised, Marlon says, to my knowledge.
Not surprised.
Not surprised. Memphis Wrestling, Steve says, has the same problem as the NWA. They have no one to go against their female champion. I think they feel like they're saving Mackenzie Morgan, Jeremy. Like it's, you know.
Yeah, and I'm sure Steve saw, but this past week they had a little backstage segment where Cassandra and Mackenzie will be going up against each other for the number 1 contenders. So I think we'll see something there. And then Nikki Lane, Austin's wife, I'm not sure if she's coming back or not, but they did a segment where she got involved with some trainees that Austin was wrestling with. So maybe we get to see her come back as well.
Maybe. Let's talk about World Tag, because it looks like right now, 6 weeks out, that La Rebellion will face the Brothers of Funstruction, who got a non-title win over them last night. But then you're coming off of the Crockett Cup, where you have featured Trevor Murdoch and Mike Knox as your Crockett Cup champions, Dave. Do you think they're going to maybe have La Rebellion put down the brothers, or the brothers go over and then have, maybe that match involve Trevor and Mox. Trevor and Knox, not Mox. That would be cool, but Trevor and
Blood.
yeah, Murdoch's at 75. What do you think is going to happen there?
I'd hope for Murdoch and Knox to go against La Rebellion. I was surprised seeing the Clowns win, but I think it may be like quote unquote a red herring, giving them a chance. Because I mean, if they weren't clowns, if you're just watching, they are very good wrestlers.
Mm-hmm.
They are actually brothers, and they are a good tag team. They just, in my opinion, I don't personally like their gimmick. But if you overlook them being clowns, they're a good tag team. So I think hopefully they'll be.
Oh, we lost Dave there. Oh, he went totally. Okay. We'll get him back in a sec. Yeah, no, for sure, Steve. I know you're talking about the UWN. We've seen all the possible matchups because there's like 4 women in the whole thing.
Yeah.
For sure. Yeah.
Sorry.
There you go, Dave. You all right?
Yeah. Having internet problems. It's been raining.
Yeah, no worries. I have the same problems when it rains here.
I'm only happy when it rains.
Okay. Calm down. Jeremy with the song lyrics here. What was it? That will be Pillman versus Morton 3. Oh, I must have missed something in the chat about Brian Pillman being free and from AEW right now.
Mm-hmm.
He hasn't been wrestling in a while, right?
I haven't seen him wrestle, but that's because I don't watch AEW. So,
yeah, he's a good talent. He fit well with the NWA if he wants to stop off for a while.
Yeah.
NWA Women's Tag Team Championship should face a tag team consisting of Rekka, Tahaka, and Vipers. I looked up and I watched a couple of Rekka Tahaka matches. It's pretty good.
Yeah.
Certainly a physical specimen. I don't mean that in a creepy way. Like, she's athletic and talented. You know who else really over in the UWN is I'm going to get it wrong. Is it J.S. Roden? Is that her name? Like they call her the boss. She's like super athletic. She's a heel.
J-Rod.
J-Rod, yeah. Oh, okay. So I think online she's J.S. Rodden, I think then. Yeah, like give me more of that. She looks like a badass. Let's see here. Yeah, Pillman's AEW contract expired in May. Chris Drummond, big Chris dog. Pillman was released for a reason. He hasn't improved. Fair enough.
Oh, send him over to NW or send him over to the NWA. Let him get a couple seasons worth of reps there.
That's right. AAA ball, baby. That's what we're here for. World Women's Tags. I don't feel like M95's got anyone to go for, except for Pretty Empowered. As an aside, though, guys, oh my God, the Deals TV spot that they had, like he's TMZ, is fine. I had no problem with it. My favorite part is just Ella in the background, like
rolling the eyes. Yep,
she's so good. Like just sitting in the background, whatever you say, he's just like, oh,
yeah.
I had a kid like this. Like she's 27 now, but yeah, I mean, I love the Mean Girls, Pretty Empowered stuff, and if there's an opportunity to put the belts back on them, let's do it, please. And build from there, because it was awesome. Carlton says I would try to bring in Pillman and Brock Anderson as a tag team and have them beat La Rebellion. Wow, that would certainly be a shock. Pillman and Anderson. Oh, we lost Dave. Pillman and Anderson would be fun. I don't know about World Tag, but it would certainly be an interesting shock to see that happen. What about Kerry Morton? Who do we see for Kerry Morton? Colby Carino?
Colby, Joe Alonzo, Alex Taylor.
Yep.
Well, Alex Taylor's in the Southern Six with Kerry now.
Keep it in the family.
I guess.
Southern way.
I just
Oh,
snorted.
wow.
I made a snort sound there.
Snort.
It ain't fighting, it's just family business.
Yeah, that's right. Carlton says Trevor and Knox should face the country gentleman, put a belt on him. Oh, and I've seen some of the NWA wrestlers wrestling for JCP, Joe Kazana wrestling. Yeah. Honest question. If La Rebellion loses, do you see them sticking around the NWA as much? They're getting the push in AAA, and as I heard, maybe headed to Noah. I don't know. I imagine they have accomplished everything they possibly could have done in the NWA. I put something in our Discord, our little other guys one. I booked 75. My wife was unwell, and so I just fantasy booked it.
Yeah.
And I had them facing that team for AAA, like winner takes both belts. I think that would be fun.
Yep.
But I don't know. Yeah, I would say, well, it's probably time to move on. Also, there's a great story online from Mecha Wolf that John Ceramic or Fuzz put in our Alliance Discord, right? About how he was down and out, and apologies. And he was down and out, and the brothers took him in.
Yeah.
Years ago, and he was so happy to have this match with them, and just kind of, celebrate where they've all come together. EC3 and Joe Galley are live in it. Hey, we don't advertise other people while we're on.
Don't go plug another podcast.
It's everyone go watch that. No, don't do that. I mean, we don't have to do all these matches, but I guess the last ones would be what's going to happen with the national title now? Throw Billy and someone else?
A tournament, I guess.
Wasn't there a photo online for Hoyo with Dak Draper?
I saw that.
I don't know if that got leaked or something. Did you see that, Dave? He's gone now. So maybe it's Draper and Thrillbilly for the national title. I don't know.
I wouldn't be against that.
I would be fine if the two TV titles were just not at the pay-per-view, leave them for TV.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I want to see Thom Latimer there.
Yeah.
75, right? I don't know. And Country Gentlemen. I mean, is it Savages one more time? Or is there another team in the works?
Probably get the Savages again.
The Savages.
The Savages. And is it just me, or does it feel like Chris DeSilvio has been posting thirst trap pictures online a lot here lately on Twitter?
It is not just you, my friend. He is
thirsty. As the kids would say, thirsty.
Good night, everybody. He's also been Chris Silvio, I believe, has an OnlyFans. And he's advertised that on his social media. And he's an intergender champion right now of some league I do not know. So
he's on a Kaufman route.
Yeah, maybe. I'm not sure. I think it's a legit intergender league where either gender has a chance in the storylines. But Dodie says time for the Savages as the new U.S. Tag Team Champs. Dave's going to try to reconnect.
Okay.
Thrillbilly, a.k.a. Bam Bam 2.0. I guess for national title, I'm totally fine with that.
100%.
How many wins has Latimer got from getting number 7? I want to say he has 3 to go.
That sounds right.
Yeah.
That does sound right.
We'll have to check on that one. Anyway, it's interesting. It's early still, early days still for for N75 and picking those matches. But it's fun to sort of say who could it be and what could we hope that it would be. Any anticipated matches from you guys, Dave? Anything you are looking forward to see that you haven't seen yet?
No, not really. I mean, it's I'm hoping that there's a major swerve and we get a surprise entry the second night.
Right.
Whether it be for Kamille, whether it be for Tyrus, or if Tyrus loses the first night, a surprise for EC3 if he is the new champion.
Right. How about you, Jeremy? Are you interested in Scion versus Zion, or maybe there'll be a third brother named Cryon?
That's funny shit. Actually, yeah, I am kind of invested in this Zion storyline that they've got going on. I keep forgetting that Zion's entrance music is just white noise, and I thought my TV was screwing up or their audio was screwing up whenever he came out, and then it wasn't there, and then it happened, and then it stopped, and I was like, was that my TV or was that their audio? And then whenever the match was over and it started up again, I was like, oh no, that's his music. I forgot.
Poyo was actually telling us weeks ago on this show through the chat that Zion, well, at the time the Masked Man, I guess, again, is someone who had participated at the highest levels of wrestling, was very talented. I agree. Talented wrestler. No idea who's behind that mask.
Still no idea who's behind it. And I tried to get a good look at the tattoo that he's got on his shoulder, and I can't. It looks like it may be like a small down version of the tattoo that Lesnar has on his back, but I can't really get a good, clear look at it, so I have no idea.
Dodie said that for what Chris was saying, I believe Thom defended at HP Cares for Cooper, will also be defending at the upcoming Boca Raton show. So the question remains as to whether the title defense of the Dark Show will be counted or not. Sure. I guess we'll see.
Yeah.
Idolmania Sports Manager is thinking, I don't even think they're around anymore, but your point is taken. Thanks, Steve.
Thank you.
See you soon as well. Let's turn things over to you now, Jerry. Let's talk about some United Wrestling Network in a segment we call Championship Wrestling from Jeremy.
I need all of you to stop what you're doing and listen.
The following is a presentation of the United Wrestling Network.
It's time for Championship Wrestling from Jeremy.
That's me.
That's him. There's a lot going on in the UWN during what they're calling the summer showcase right now.
Yes,
they've got all 3 announcing teams over in Championship Wrestling over there in California, kind of putting everything together. So tell us what's going on this past week.
We've got there, like you said, there is a lot going on in the UWN stratosphere. There's a lot going on in Memphis. We will see the return of Madge Kruger will be coming back to Memphis, so I'm looking forward to that.
Cool. Yeah.
We had the Pope show up and was on commentary and did a promo. and I'm sure we'll be seeing him in the ring soon. Then we had the match of the week for Memphis, which was K Toomer and Mike Anthony with King Cobra versus the Roberts family legacy of Aaron Roberts and Cordell with Big Red and Justin Case. The match started off with Toomer getting the jump on Aaron in the ring and Mike handling Cordell on the floor. The Wrestle Center was packed and the crowd was red hot for this match. And at times it was hard to hear Dustin and Maria on commentary. Toomer had Aaron from the opening bell in defensive mode. And when he tagged in Mike, Toomer delivered a corner splash and then fed him to Mike for a huge clubbing clothesline to flatten Aaron. Aaron was finally able to tag in Cordell, but Mike was on him like a man possessed and quickly got him in the corner for 10 shots to the head. Just as Dustin is commenting about K Toomer and Mike being firmly in control, Justin Case made his way up onto the ring apron. This gave Big Red the opportunity to trip Mike and allow Cordell to tag in Aaron and get a two count pin attempt. Aaron followed this up by choking Mike through the ropes in front of King Cobra. Aaron tagged Cordell back in, and they delivered a boot to the head, followed up by a sidewalk slam. I'm not sure what the name of that move is, but it should have one. Especially from those two, it a little bit cleaner, and it could look very, very brutal. Coming from those two. But Cordell goes for the pin right in front of K Toomer and then only gets a 1 count as he breaks it up as Toomer comes into the ring. The crowd made sure to let Cordell know that he sucks. Mike is able to hit Cordell with an enziguri, and that left both men struggling to make a tag. When they do, Toomer gets some shots in on Aaron before going for a rock bottom, but Cordell breaks that up. Toomer is able to get an enziguri in on Aaron and is caught with a running knee by Cordell, who is in turn then taken out by a flying enziguri out of nowhere from Mike Anthony. And it, seriously, the way that they had that shot framed, it looked like he just came in like one of those karate moves, just kind of out of nowhere. And I lost my place.
That happens.
Oh, Anthony then dives over the top rope onto Cordell, and they continue to fight to the back, and K Toomer and Aaron follow suit as well. This leaves King Cobra alone with Big Red, who Cobra quickly lays out after a few jabs and a haymaker, and Justin Case, who attempts to get in a cheap shot. Cobra turns just before Justin can, and Big Red hits him with a kendo stick as the ref is continually calling for the bell. Toomer and Anthony come back out, and Big Red and Justin Case flee. This rivalry appears to be far from over and showing no signs of slowing down. Stay tuned for further developments on this. We're gonna see more from this. I truly feel.
Before we go over to the other show, if you're headed there now, there's a lot of comments. Mike says, first off, I think Mike was getting ready, like, okay, here we go, because he's got something to say. First off, I don't know who's putting UWN shows on YouTube, but they fucked up twice labeling it Derby City when it's Car Shield. Not really. Go ahead, Jeremy, if you want to.
I think that this is they're kind of doing like they were with Memphis whenever they first started running Memphis, and we would get a couple of weeks of UWN, then we get a couple of weeks of Memphis wrestling.
Right.
And then they go back to UWN for a little bit, and we get Memphis wrestling again. all the while, we're also getting shows of old UWN matches with Dustin and Maria Starr doing the intros for each match and everything. And then they got away from that once Memphis was able to start putting on, I'm not sure, I think their taping schedule is like every 2 weeks.
Right.
So once they were able to have a consistent taping schedule, then they went back. Then they went to, you're seeing Memphis on Saturday. You're seeing UWN Championship Wrestling from Hollywood on Sunday.
Right.
Now that they brought in Derby City Wrestling, they used what footage that they had from Hollywood interspersed with Derby City Wrestling. And Dave is splitting his time between Louisville and Hollywood at this point until he can possibly hand the reins over to somebody in Derby City that can oversee production that he trusts. I'm not sure.
He's talked about that, yeah.
But that would seem like the most logical direction, is he's prepping someone to take over those reins. And I would think that's probably Gilbert Corsi.
That could be. But like, just to your point, like, I think they're doing Championship Wrestling and Memphis, and then Derby and Memphis, and probably Derby and who did I miss? Whatever the combinations are for their summer showcase. And
right.
Everyone's at Irvine right now. All the announcers are there. So you'll see Danny Limelight over with the Gun Show in Memphis.
Yep.
And the same week you'll see him, or the week after, you'll see him in California going, "Mi gente."
Yep.
You know, it's me here. So they're sort of narrowing the focus in order to bring everything together.
And I do believe
same title. Okay.
Probably after the Golden Opportunity, we'll see possibly a more consistent schedule of Memphis Championship Wrestling presented by CarShield, Derby City Wrestling.
Right.
You know, again, I'm not 100% on that. I don't have any type of inside scoop or hotline to Dave or anything like that. Purely speculation, people. But again, that was the formula that they took whenever introducing Memphis, so it worked with that.
We're saying the same thing, Mike, but in different ways. But we can talk about it offline. It's the same show under different titles.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that could just be an oversight. I don't know.
Willie said, wouldn't mind seeing Bret Michaels, the Gun Show, and Big Swole Justin Cole in the NWA. I often feel like Justin Cole is just, in waiting.
Yeah.
Until they find something for him to really sink his teeth into. Mike says they're camera shots. Who held the camera? Ray Charles?
Yeah.
Beef Candy match versus the two white guys. Effing terrible. I don't remember that one.
I don't remember that one either.
Fat Jitsu was only a good thing in the whole. He's talking about the O'Neill brothers and. And the Fat Jitsu partner guy. I think you mean the Genetic Nightmare. Has to stop acting like he's 9 feet tall. He is 9 feet tall. He's the biggest man who ever lived.
Hey, King Kong.
Yeah. Anyway, carry on, Jeremy. Over to you.
I wanted to give an honorable mention for, and this might shock you a little bit, but Big John Dalton and Storybook Prince Gaston put on a decent match. I was surprised.
No, carry on.
We now go to Championship Wrestling presented by CarShield's match of the week, and I took the Institution's Brandon Devine and Honest John going up against 24K Miggy Rose and Michael Hopkins with Guy Cool, who, love him or hate him, he seems to have that touch.
Tweak his Eddie.
Divine and Hopkins are the first two in this match, and Divine comes out hot, getting the first shot in. He follows it up with kicks and punches, and goes for an Irish whip into a clothesline. Hopkins ducked the clothesline and then hit the ropes just right and nailed Divine with the big lariat, and then makes the tag to Rose. Honest goes to get involved and is quickly sent over the top rope. And I just lost my place again, messed up my screen.
It's because Mike said that Gaston's getting better and he's looking better physically. Mike, stop it. Stop it immediately. It's throwing off the show.
Okay. Actually, Gaston is getting better, though. He really is.
I will eject you from this broadcast. He might be. He's so I don't care about him and his stupid gimmicks. So
yeah, I get that. But Honest John goes to get involved and is quickly set up an atomic drop into a drop kick tag move. Again, I don't know if there's a name for that one, but that one did look fun and look like it hurt. This sent Honest John to the floor, and 24K gets a moment to show why they almost became tag champs over the Mighty Zaddies a few weeks back with their innovative tag offense. Hopkins gets a 2 count. Divine is able to turn it around and makes the tag to Honest. They attempt a tag move of their own, but Hopkins had it scouted and wisely held onto the ropes and then hit Honest with a kick to the face and tossed Divine to the floor. Honest and Hopkins traded reversals as they went for belly-to-back slams. As Hopkins made his reversal, Honest ran toward the ropes, and Divine made a tag and hit Hopkins with a big boot, but could only get a 2 count as Honest kicks Rose off the apron. Divine tags Honest back in and slingshots him into Hopkins in the corner. Honest then throws Hopkins into a lariat from Divine. This flattened Hopkins, and Honest made a cover, but still only got a 2 count. Honest then tagged Divine back in and kept the pressure on Hopkins. Hopkins was able to duck a shot and get in a few forearms before Divine tagged Honest back in. Divine slingshot Honest into Hopkins again, but Hopkins moved out of the way and had that scouted. He dumped Divine over the top rope, got Honest down, and made the hottest of tags to a very fresh and fired up Miggy Rose. Rose hit Honest with a clothesline and Divine with a drop kick, then hit Honest with a clothesline, followed up by a rump bump in the corner. That's not the name for it, but it's what popped into my head whenever I was typing.
That's awesome. It's the name now.
And then took out Divine again. Miggy gets Honest up and over with a double underhook slam for a 2. Miggy then tagged in Hopkins, and Hopkins set up Honest on his shoulders as Miggy climbed up to the top rope. But Honest was able to slide down Hopkins' back and send him into the corner, causing Rose to come down hard on the apron. Honest dropped Hopkins and gets a 2 count. But then Honest made the tag to Divine back in, and they attempt a double team move. Hopkins was able to kick Honest out of the way, but not get out of the hold as Divine is struggling to keep a hold of Hopkins. Hopkins was able to make a blind tag to Rose. Divine was unaware and hits the atomic drop on Hopkins, followed up with a discus lariat punch on Hopkins and made the pin, unaware that Rose was the legal man. As Divine is trying to figure out what happened, Rose gets him in a roll-up, and the ref made the 3 count for the win. 24K gets another impressive victory under their belt since bringing in Guy Cole as their manager. And an honorable mention here to Zicky Dice and Johnny LaQuasto right before this match. Zicky was probably the most fired up that I've seen him to date. And then just laying out LaQuasto and leaving him flat in the ring. I loved it.
Did he just raise his fist and he went down, or did he hit him?
He hit him.
Okay. I wasn't sure if Laquasto just fell down expecting it or what, but yeah. You're kind of right about that earlier match, because there was a pretty cool spot in Memphis for Big John Dalton when there was like the blinding, and then what's his name tried to pin the referee, and Dalton went down and counted it.
Yeah.
If it had ended there, better match than it was, I thought. But
and that was my thought, but that's why I wanted to bring it up, because that was one of the spots that got me. I don't think I've seen that before, and that just it popped me a little bit, because Gaston was completely committed to it.
And Gaston, yeah, Mike says he has been getting better. You can see it. Got to give him credit. His gimmick is shit, but he's putting on an effort. You could put lipstick on a pig, Mike. It's still a pig. Look, some of you hate Rolando. Some of you hate Tyrus. Don't care for storybook Prince Gaston. Worst gimmick in professional wrestling.
I will leave you with these words this week. If you're not watching the UWN and all of its affiliate shows, Memphis, Derby City, I got nothing for you.
Thank you very much, my friend. A pleasure as always. Let's go over now to our resident fantasy booker in a segment we like to call I Respect You. So, Mr. Dave Scooby cracks open the fantasy book to talk about the new streaming or TV deal for the NWA. What do you got today, Dave?
Well, Billy is calling it good news. And I don't know if that's a play off of Fox News, being that your world champion Tyrus is featured on Gutfeld 5 nights a week. It could be one of the reasons that the belt was put on Tyrus, to have him talk this up to Fox, because Fox itself is not just Fox. Fox and FS1 show WWE. They're under contract till October of 2024. But under the umbrella, there's also Tubi, which does TV and streaming. Plus, they have network television of My Network TV. So depending on which direction they go, it could be under Fox, but it would be under one of their affiliate stations. But in my honest opinion, the NWA would need to step up its presentation and step up the quality of programming that they do if they would go on a network channel.
Mm.
Now, it's one of these things that it's either TV or streaming. Streaming, as you can see, we stream and we have problems.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Network television is more reliable, but it's not the hip and cool thing. So you either go with tried and true, something that's been around since the 50s, having pro wrestling on regular TV, or you go with the streaming. If you go with the streaming, there's several different ways, and they've already tried one, being Fight TV. Now, Fight TV gave us I think it was $50 for a year subscription, and it was a good deal. But then they realized they weren't making their money back.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So it's one of these things of you have to decide which way you're going. Fight TV had, I don't know if you guys had ever heard of Josh Smirnoff. He's involved with wrestling, doing podcasts. He was involved with Fight TV. He is now involved with the Premier Streaming Network. And if you don't know what the Premier Streaming Network is, they're doing $5 a month or $50 a year. We're doing pro wrestling. It's Freddie Prinze Jr.'s way of getting in to do wrestling, being that years ago he was with the WWE. He has the money behind him to start this. Now it's one of these things of they'll be providing live pay-per-views, live wrestling, taped wrestling, and historical wrestling. That they've actually bought some libraries of smaller independents and are telling the story of, if you watch AEW, you know that Tony Khan bought ROH. Well, probably about a third of the people that are currently on the AEW roster started out in ROH. So now they're able to tell stories from the past. Hey, here's CM Punk back when he was in ROH battling Samoa Joe.
Right.
20 years later, here they are again.
Mm-hmm.
So it's one of these things. I'm not sure where it's going to go and where they're going to end up. But why not give it a chance? If Freddie Prinze is willing to work a deal with the NWA, I'd still like the NWA to tighten things up and have a crisper and more professional look to it. But then you also have the sort of charm of the NWA is it looks like studio wrestling.
Right.
And that's what brought people in. So if Billy would find one location to do tapings, do it. Build a place or find a place that is the same every time you go in. Like I've said before, if you watch Big Bang Theory, you see that TV show, and if they're in the apartment is the same unless something new is introduced. You want something that is familiar to you, and with wrestling, there's a reason that AEW, ROH, they have a set way they do their tapings.
Mm-hmm.
They do ROH before and after, and then they'll record or actually do a live show for AEW. But whenever you watch an AEW show, it is not at least 90% the same visuals that you're seeing. The entryway is the same. The ring setup is the same. Where the announcers are. It's one of these things. It needs to become almost a second nature that when you look at anything NWA, you see the flags in the background.
Yeah.
You see, okay, hey, there's Joe and the rest of the announcers. They're right over in the corner. There's this. Hey, here's the entryway. This is how we do it. If you're comfortable watching something, you get used to a rhythm and a pattern. Same thing with any TV show. That wrestling has become a TV show. Wrestling is wrestling itself, but it is a TV show. It has episodes. That's why they have seasons. That they need to decide where they're going to go and what's best for them. In my personal opinion, if they're willing to give the Premier Streaming Network a try, you have people that are involved in the industry. You just need to provide a good show. and it's not wrestling, it's a show, because you have storylines. If it's just wrestling, you don't need storylines. You would just bring a whole bunch of guys in, record a whole bunch of matches, and go, hey, here you go. Throw this show together and pick whichever matches.
Yeah.
He froze on us there. Hopefully we didn't lose Dave. All right, you're back.
There we go. But I was just finishing up saying that in it being a storyline for the NWA, they need to step forward. Nothing against YouTube, but YouTube can only get you so far.
Right.
So it's one of these things that they need to decide where they're going. And Billy owns the NWA, but he also puts most of his effort towards the Smashing Pumpkins. He can be the owner, but he needs to let management do their thing. He has a final say, but management needs to do their thing and run it as a...
Uh-oh. See if he'll pop back in 3, 2, 1. Nope. He's gone for a second. I'll go to the chat. Dodie says, I expect small network at the level of MLW. That's still surprising good news for the NWA. Yeah, I guess we'll wait and see, but I would agree. Although I don't know that, Dave may have a point here with the Fox affiliation. How about AMC or WGN? WGN is Chicago-based. I know that one.
Yes.
Especially considering NWA will probably be based around Chicago sooner or later. Yeah.
Oh, and Fox also has their own Fox Nation streaming app, which they have a multitude of different types of programming on there. I'm not 100% clear on what all it is, but they have some.
Right. Mike says Fox or FS1 can show the NWA on their app or other FS1 affiliate channels. However, can they generate enough interest or revenue? Yeah, it'll be interesting to see. Dave made really. I have a tendency to compartmentalize things. Dave made really two good points there, I thought. One is that it's Dave can't get back, unfortunately, but one is that this is a show, and he used that Big Bang Theory reference. When that set came up in the apartment, you get an emotional feeling from it.
Yeah.
That Sheldon seat on the edge of that couch, all the cool shit they got around the place and who's going to be where. And you get that sense. In a more wrestling sense, it's basically like the Impact Zone. Like it's the same place all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's that emotional feeling on the show. I get it. Dave Marquez was talking on Facebook this week or last about he's really interested in trying to find new ways to shoot studio wrestling because it's always kind of the same.
Yeah.
At Irvine for Championship Wrestling, like there's literally restaurant booths around the ring, but the production value is so great from Marquez Productions that it doesn't look rinky-dink at all.
No, it doesn't.
It doesn't. It looks fantastic. But if the NWA has like that one place that perhaps a streaming deal, especially if it's Fox-based, could do for them, then that comes with the second point. There's an old trope about how the network sends their goons down and they have like a couple of people who say, okay, we don't like this, we don't like that. You can't, if you watch Dave Chappelle stand up, the lady who said, you can't say this stuff on television, right?
Standards and practices.
Standards, thank you. And that was even a wrestling thing back in the Russo days, I think. But standards and practices, and like, oh, darn standards. But those people are necessary. You get their network, and they get to take the artistic assholes who run stuff and say, no, we require you to do this because we know what.
Bring them in.
Right. This works. It sells money. We know what we're talking about. We have to find that middle ground. So, two amazing points by Dave, as always. Doty says, if the deal is just another streaming, what's the difference? What's different with than with Fight? At least Fight is available in my country, and I can pay for it. Yeah, I mean, there's that. There is that. Dave Marquez, Doty says, always so obsessed with studio wrestling, but he never makes interview podium outside, and they never aired the NWA Hollywood pilot taping. Yeah, I mean, he's got limited space, I guess, in where he films. Jeremy, you wanted to say something?
Dave Marquez is kind of like a mix between a Bob Geigel and Monty Hall.
I don't know, Dave, but I think he'd say thank you, Jeremy.
Because he's got that pencil, that thin little microphone, and he doesn't. A podium, from my outlook, was always a place that made you feel that the person standing behind it was an important person. Dave Marquez doesn't need a prop to present that he is an important person. He just kind of naturally exudes that, whether he wants to or not. He is a presenter in every facet of the term, and I truly feel that he never really looked comfortable behind the podium in NWA. He always seems to be more comfortable where he can just kind of move around a little bit freer without anything impeding him in front.
That's interesting. I think he has said, if I remember correctly, like he's not super fan of himself being on TV.
Yeah, no.
He'd rather be in behind the scenes and having other people do that work. But I think he's great too.
He's just so good at it that the camera keeps pulling him back. Honestly,
it's so funny because we are fans, and we're not in TV, and some of the people in the chat from time to time are in TV. They've been in TV, they get it, and the whole bit. And we talk about like people like Dave Marquez who understand television and how studio wrestling's set up. If I had my druthers, it'd be a great conversation with Mr. Marquez someday, who I haven't had the pleasure of speaking to in person, but I would love to do it like the UFC does it, where they will show you, I haven't seen the UFC in years, but they will show you the guy with his train of trainers, in the back, in the doorway, and there might be someone there, like your May Valentine, going like, all right, EC3, you're about to walk outside and face Tyrus for the World Championship. Any last words? And he's just like, time to change my narrative. And then out he goes, right? And boom, the energy's there, and it's coming down the aisle. And when everything's over, you got your Joe Rogan, whoever that is, Kyle Davis or whatever, in the ring talking with the victor, and like just to have that reality energy into pro wrestling, I think would work so well.
I love that train of thought, because it would give, especially for your championship matches, it would give it that big fight prize, that prize fight feel, right?
Yeah, exactly that. Yeah. And you don't need a podium necessarily. We haven't seen the podium in the NWA for a few seasons, but just that prize fight energy is what I would love to see, and that sense of reality. If you can, or plausibility, if you can put the interviewer right in front of the match, right after the match, between like when people used to come out of the ring and the crowds in studio wrestling would be jeering or cheering, and Bob Caudle would be like, "Oh, what just happened there?" Let's see if we can talk to Paul Orndorff. And then they would just like they do that. That was at least there was an energy to the room. It's funny, man. I saw a clip, the Southern Six backstage. We saw it on Power.
Yeah,
but I saw a clip where it was pulled back, and they showed the entire room and who was there and what was moving about and what it looked like beyond the set. And I was it didn't devastate me. It's pro wrestling, but I was so taken out of it. I went, oh.
Yeah.
Like, I know that there's people and production and cables and people eating and talking and doing other stuff. And, the guy that you hate is like 20 feet that way. Like, I get it, but I don't want to see it. And like, it made me feel, I'm not complaining about the clip, but the sense that it was so, to use a Cornette word, phony.
Yeah.
It was out of the moment. We've done that one. It's like those Mean Gene clips you can see online where like next one up, Nikolai Volkov, get in here. Next one up, it's Mike Rotundo, whatever. And that energy was gone for me.
So I had a similar thing happen to me, and it wasn't intentional. It wasn't anything that was posted on social media or anything because it wasn't around then. But this was years ago whenever me and my little brother were working at Roberts Municipal Stadium in Evansville, Indiana. And that's where, if WWE was coming through, that's where they went at the time. That was the stadium that we had in Evansville, was still a tour town, but now it was just for WWE. And at the time, William Regal and X-Pac were involved in a feud on TV, and they had came to Evansville for a taping, and me and my brother had to work that event. We were going to do cleanup afterwards.
Wow.
And all that. And while we're backstage, just walking around, 21 or 22, 23 years old, walking around backstage with my little brother, seeing all the wrestlers. We saw Jeff and Matt Hardy and such. And then we saw William Regal and X-Pac and Triple H all load into a car together. And the first thought that I had was, Triple H just isn't as big as he looks on TV. I was a little bit smaller than him at the time. The second thought I had was, well, that sucks because I'm really enjoying the feud that these two are having on screen, and now I know that they're fucking riding together and eating Burger King on the road. By no fault of their own.
Sure.
But it was just that slight little thing that I happened to see that took me completely out of that storyline from that point on after that.
Yeah. Yeah, and it just to see it happening, it's like the veil is, the curtain's across, and it's like, pay no attention to that man. Like, we know.
I know to the man behind the curtain.
Right. We know what we know. We just want to pretend that we don't know that.
Right. Don't make it so obvious.
Yeah, Dave actually says it right here. We don't want to see the Wizard of Oz, not the guy continuing the show behind the scenes. The energy that comes from live action, and again, I started this conversation with, I don't know TV, so maybe somehow it's not possible, but it's possible for the UFC.
Yep,
it's possible to have like somebody, even if it was like, let's see if we can get a word with. I don't know, Brock Lesnar. He's not in the UFC, but just back in the day with Brock Lesnar, and Lesnar's just like, fuck off. Yeah. Even if it was that, you'd be like, oh, it's like he's into this right now. You'd get that feeling.
Mm-hmm.
I would love to see that somewhere. Cody, James H. Jackson Jr., Cody versus Aldis at Ollie, and that energy. Your people come down as if it were a boxing prize fight. Love that. The guy with the arm, he's got his hand on the shoulder of the guy in front of him. You know, like I realize that's kind of a gimmick, but it's a great gimmick. And
it is.
It just translates so well. Like if somebody wins a world title, I want the ring mobbed, you know?
And from this perspective, if you're a diehard fan and you've got that one buddy that you've been trying to get to come to a show with you,
yeah,
and he's just, I don't want to see that. It's fucking wrestling. It's fake. Yeah. I know it's fake. And then you finally convince him to go to a show with you, and it's for this big title match. And then you see a guy come out and your buddy's a boxing fan or an MMA fan, and they see somebody come out like that. You haven't set that hook in, but you've gotten them to bite a little bit. I guarantee it. You know, and then from there, you let those two talents tell that story in the ring and set that hook in, hopefully. And then from there, you possibly got a fan for life.
Yeah, you're right. And if any, I mean, this isn't a change we're demanding, but if anything was going to come soon on the eve of the greatest anniversary since the 50th,
yep,
the 75's big. It's your biggest show of the year, regardless. NWA 75 is the time. Wrestling at the Chase, baby. Like you're set up for it. There's got to be surprises. There's got to be energy. It's got to keep going all night. And I like the NWA always does pay-per-views great.
Yeah,
almost always. And we hope for the best.
Yeah,
and prepare for the worst. Mr. Corgan, if you're listening, we don't want Tyrus anymore. That's what everyone in this chat is saying all the time. So,
and you brought up a good point that this is the NWA at 75, and it's not the NWA from 50. The NWA from 50 would have been 1998.
Yep.
And at what place isn't that what they refer to as the wilderness years or some shit like that? To where they were a promotion with nothing, essentially.
Very little. You're absolutely right. Yeah,
they didn't have any type of TV, any type of nationwide TV deals or anything like that. So at this moment in time, for this 75, the NWA is far better off than what they were 25 years ago.
Right.
And this is definitely a time to put your foot down and go, this is where we tighten up all the loose ends and we get all this straightened out right. And from here on out, motherfuckers say the NWA with reverence and pride.
I can't beat that, folks. That's the way you got to go out on this show. 100% agree, buddy. So I think the chat's chatted out. I think Dave is gone for the night, although I think he's watching. It's been a blast. Tomorrow night, you have, let me go back to the comment here. Hey, Matthew Underwood, welcome. We're just wrapping up. But tomorrow night, join us for the Alliance guys, J Cal, DKM, and Jaden, who will be reviewing, possibly much to DKM's chagrin, the Power from yesterday, which had its ups and downs.
Power through it, buddy. Power through
it. And that'll be the next show, Power Through It. And every Tuesday, of course, the boss, the captain, my captain, J Cal, will be hosting the pre-party at 5 p.m. Eastern, 2 p.m. Pacific, in that hour before Power on YouTube. Jeremy, where can they find you, my friend?
You can find me over on Twitter at HJWOTS and on YouTube at Worm5559. and I am more than likely going to start an Instagram so I can get a Threads, because apparently you have to have the one to get the other. And I will be starting up a Threads thing, and I will drop that next week.
Awesome. I am also theoretically on Threads, but I am at the Alliance Gold. And in Dave's absence, please follow Dave on Instagram and Twitter at Dave Scooby on Instagram and at Dave Scooby1 on TikTok. Alliance-wrestling.com is your number one source for news and entertainment and information around the National Wrestling Alliance, United Wrestling Network, Major League Wrestling, all other independents. They are at alliance-wrestling.com. Thank you guys for Dave Scooby and from me and Jeremy. Until next time, we'll see you at the matches.
Thanks for joining the stream. This has been a presentation of Alliance-Wrestling.com. We genuinely appreciate your support. Would you consider subscribing so you'll never miss a future episode? I'd also like to remind you we do a live stream every Tuesday at 5 p.m. before NWA Power. You can find us on social media at The Alliance Blog. And until next time, we are The Alliance.